session of Social Profit Lab is going to change your business. I think that when all of us get started, it can be really hard to figure out what makes us stand out from the crowd, really what makes us unique, and how much should we really charge? Because do we have the social authority? Do we have the credibility? So I brought in my two favorite experts to talk all about this. I'm sitting down with Michael and Tonya. Their session is Charge How You're Seen, Change How You're Seen, Charge What You're Worth. And you guys, I've had the opportunity to get to know both of you through a mastermind, and we were in the same mastermind. We've done talks about like guesting on each other's shows. And every time Tonya, you and I sat down and we had just, I think it was an hour-long conversation about branding versus marketing. And it's almost the same conversation of what comes first, the chicken or the egg. Such a great conversation. I knew when I was putting this list of speakers together, you're at the top of the list. I don't even know really if I gave you the option to say no. I just said, okay, here's my event, fill out this form, and here you are, because I know that you guys have such great tips and insights for helping us stand out online and really coming into our own sphere so that we can charge what we are worth. Thank you so much for being a part of Social Profit Lab.
Oh, thank you, Katie. We're honored to be part of it. And
Yes.
even if you've given us an option to say no, we wouldn't have taken it.
Well, you guys are the team at, I was gonna say, you guys are the team at Brand Face. I'll let you both take it away. I know this session is going to be absolutely incredible. I'm going to get my pen and paper out so I can take some copious notes. I'll let you take it away.
Sounds good. All right. Today, we're going to start with a statistic you have probably never heard before. Did you know that 98% of people meet your brand before they even meet you? Think about that. That alone should tell you how important your personal brand really is.
The main purpose of a brand is to attract the right people and to inspire them to want to do business with you before they even meet you. So how do you know whether or not your brand is doing what you want and attracting the right people for you right now? In other words, how do you know if your brand is helping you or hurting you? Well, today you're going to find out. We're going to share it with you. And you'll also receive a free gift from us. So stick around to the end and we'll share that with you. All right. So let's start with a few questions, which will tell you right away whether there's an issue with your brand. We're going to make the assumption you already have one. Okay. See if this is familiar. Are you posting regularly, but notice that your posts are not bringing you any prospects? Do your prospects often ask, what is it do you do again?
I hate that one, right? Are they comparing you to a competitor and making a decision based on price? And worse, do you end up undercharging for your services because you don't believe your prospects can really afford it?
Yeah. Are you struggling to focus your message because you've got your hands in like 1,000 projects? Well, those are just a few of the signals that your brand isn't serving you the way it should be. And it could be causing a lot of confusion.
Yeah. And as Michael says, you can't calculate the cost of confusion, right? We know it's usually made up of commas and zeros. We just don't know how many commas and zeros it's costing you. Therefore, that's why we say you can't calculate it.
Yeah. Why are these frustrating things happening in this space? It's because what you're putting out there is not attracting what you want to attract. It really is that simple. I know it sounds cliche, but we're going to focus on that today to try to get that get you on the right track to fix it. All right. We're going to walk you through our personal brand litmus test so you can take a good close look at your brand and see if it's representing you on social media and everywhere else that your brand shows up.
All right. So first of all, let me introduce myself. I'm Tonya Eberhart. I'm the founder of Brand Face. Well, my journey actually began years ago selling vacuum cleaners door to door to pay my way through college. And back then I was just one of many people knocking on doors, and I was being turned away left and right, if you can imagine that. I was told no more times than most of you watching this right now will ever conceive of, right? That is until I learned how to craft my story and present myself differently. I couldn't just walk up to somebody's door and say, get out your checkbook, I'm here, right? It didn't work that way. So, well, Fortunately, crafting my story worked really, really well. And that's how I paid for my college tuition. And it also landed me a job in radio sales. So, fast forward to that. The minute I got into radio, I was just, the word no was just elevated to a totally different level. I was knocking on doors where the stakes were higher and the prospects were a lot harsher. And I quickly learned one thing: if I wanted to change the way that I was seen, I had to change the way I presented myself in the media world too. I didn't even know the term personal branding back in 1988. Guys, there was no internet back in 1988. Right? I'm dating myself here, but I did know how to craft my story to showcase exactly how I could help those big ad spenders in the radio world. And I also created one of the first websites ever built for a radio sales rep in the country. Well, when all of that came into play, the magic happened for me. People took me seriously. They welcomed me in because I really had something of value to share, and I became the sales rep that people would actually call up and request. Well, after that, I turned those principles toward my clients, bringing them into the studio one by one. And I have to say, some of them very reluctantly, but I helped them craft their unique message so that they could attract their customers. Over the years, I used that same strategy over and over to position and present my clients across all marketing platforms, not just radio. And the result is this: they became stars in their industry. They broke records in their businesses. And 2 decades later, that's when I founded BrandFace. Since that time, we have helped coaches, creators, experts all over the world to build a profitable personal brand, one that does the same thing that mine did for me years ago. And that was change how I was seen so I could charge what I was worth.
And what I'll tell about her that she won't tell is about 2 years ago, one of those clients sold 70% of his business for $50 million. So she does know what she's talking about. I'm Michael Carr. I'm the COO of BrandFace. And what's interesting about my story is I was actually a client of Tonya's before I became a partner in the company. I was experiencing the same challenges that we're going to talk about today that many of y'all are experiencing. Before I met her, I had achieved great success already as a nationally recognized real estate auctioneer. But the days of auctioning REOs and foreclosures were coming to a close in 2013, and I was headed back to my hometown to figure out what I was going to do. I still serial entrepreneur. I want to do something. I got to get started in something. I opened up a real estate brokerage. I've always known real estate. This is what I'm going to focus on. But I had no idea how to take what made me unique and package it all into a brand that would help me grow that business. I knew how to market. All right. I was a senior vice president of a company that some years spent $20 million in advertising. I knew how to market. I didn't know a thing about branding. I also didn't know that Tonya was writing her first book at the time about personal branding. And apparently I was a guinea pig. I'm thrilled to say that I sit here today as a huge success story as a result of that brand that she helped me build. And we're going to share those principles with you coming up here. Because within the first year of putting those BrandFace principles into practice, my real estate business quadrupled. And many years since then, it has doubled in income to provide me a solid 7-figure income year over year and economy over economy. After that first year, I saw what BrandFace could do, and I became a partner. So I could help people just like you to achieve their dream business and a business that they want, just like the dream business I wanted that she helped me create. My goal for you today is that you learn these principles that I learned a decade ago and take your business to the next level so you can work smarter, not harder, and achieve that abundant life that you deserve.
Yep. So here's where we're going to start. We speak with experts all over the world every week. And the sad fact is 90% of them are not charging what they know they are worth. That's really sad, guys. Mm-hmm. So we're on a mission to change that because we know what it's like to have a life-changing message and a purpose to share with people. We know also what that transformation looks like when you get it right.
Yeah, our mission, simply put, is to help you turn your purpose into profit. All right. Your purpose into profit. Let's start here. You already have a brand. We're going to assume that, right? You're already known for something, but there are a few questions that you want to be asking yourself about that. Okay. Number one, is it what I want to be known for? Very important. Is it different? Is it memorable? See, a decade ago, I didn't even know I needed to ask these questions.
Yeah. You see, great branding isn't being known for your profession, right? Because anybody can be known for their profession. In fact, millions are known for a profession, but it's about being known for being different in your profession. And if you haven't defined how you're different, well, one thing for sure happens. You become what we've seen so many times. You become a commodity. And when that happens, your prospects will choose who they work with based on one or more of these three criteria.
Yeah, they're going to choose you possibly because you're the cheapest, and nobody wants to be the cheapest. All right. They are going to choose somebody else because they're already connected to that person. And so you lose out in that way. Or they're going to choose you or somebody because they're most convenient. They're just arm's length away. Why? It's because you haven't given them a better reason to always choose you. In other words, you haven't built your value in your brand.
And when you haven't built your value, well, one thing's sure, you cannot possibly be charging what you're really worth. So we want you to think of your brand just like an artist paints a picture. Okay. An artist paints a picture in a way that's designed to move the observer, to get them to see things a certain way. And, we've heard that a lot of branding gurus say that customers will determine your brand. Well, we completely disagree with that, right? So, yes, in the end, your prospects will decide whether they're going to do business with you.
But it's your job to build your brand that tells them how to view you. This is where you do for you. You don't wait for someone to decide what your brand is. You paint it, and you paint the real you, the way you want to be seen. You should never allow anybody else to decide for you how you want to be seen. It's your job to show them who you are.
Yeah. Okay, before we get started on the personal brand litmus test that we're going to walk you through, there are two main myths we'd like to dispel when it comes to branding. And that's aside from the one we just talked about. Myth number one, there's a lot of confusion out there about the difference between branding and marketing. So let's clear this up before we move ahead. Marketing is using different marketing channels or platforms to get a message and image out there to your audience.
But your brand is that message and image that you are inserting into those marketing channels and systems. So like when you hear someone talk about helping you build your brand, you want to automatically freeze when you hear that phrase, and you want to draw a line, a separator, to be sure that you are making them identify the difference in building a brand and promoting a brand.
Yeah, you build your brand first, because if you don't, you just end up promoting like everybody else, right? You build it first, then you have everything you need to promote what sets you apart. Because let's face it, everybody's using the same marketing channels and systems. Everyone's using social media, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. Everybody's using video. Everybody's using email. Okay, the difference is in how you stand out on those channels and how you use them differently.
Myth number two. Many people believe that if they have a logo, a photo, and a tagline, their brand is complete.
Yep.
We're done, right? Well, not really. Those are very important parts of the puzzle, but it is a lot more to the puzzle. These are just a few of the elements of a true brand. You remember our model. If you haven't heard it, you're going to hear it for the first time. If you have, you've heard it 1,000 times. People don't do business with a logo. They do business with a person.
Yeah. So your personal brand is actually an entire ecosystem. In fact, we look at 77 different criteria when we build a brand. I know that's a lot to take in, right? So if you're just relying on those three elements to tell your story, you're only going to achieve a fraction of your branding goals and attract a fraction of your perfect prospects too.
Yep. Now, I got a little vulnerable right here, and I wanted to show everybody what my ecosystem and results has evolved into with these brand-based principles. It's a snapshot of how my brand equates to results, okay? Each area of this graph indicates a different area of my marketing and how much business that marketing brings me since I've built my brand. Remember that part, since I built my brand. Before my brand was built, I literally was like so many other business people out there, just throwing money, hoping that the phone would ring. But once I defined my brand and direction, I knew exactly where my business was coming from, including where to market, and most importantly, what to say and to show in my marketing that gets results every time in, time out. And that's what we mean when we talk about building a profitable brand. So be sure to stick with us to the end, because we're going to show you how to get in touch with us and achieve the same things that we want for you. Now, let's get to the personal brand litmus test to see how profitable your brand may or may not be for you right now.
Okay, question number 1, is my brand super defined? And what we mean by this is, have you answered the 5 critical questions that every powerful brand must answer?
Must answer. Okay, exactly. Who do you serve? Exactly how do you serve them? What qualifies you to serve them? How does it make their life better? And the most important, what makes you different from everyone else who's also attempting to serve that same customer? And this goes right back to our original statement about marketing versus branding.
Yeah.
And the difference in the two.
So think about this. How would you know where to market or what to even say in your marketing unless, first of all, you know who it is you're trying to attract and what to say to attract them? So those 5 questions are so powerful, and your branding journey actually starts right here, answering these questions with great clarity, especially as Michael mentioned that last one, what makes you different?
Yeah. Okay. So take a minute and think about all of the different people that you skim past in your social feeds every day. Think about the ones that you skim past in your own profession alone. What do you remember about them? And then you need to ask yourself, what do you think people remember about you? All right. Here's a hint. In order to maximize your presence, you must be known for more than just what you do. That's not enough, right? Because there are hundreds, thousands, maybe even millions who are offering the exact same types of services that you're offering to the exact same people. So what makes you different than all the rest?
Yeah. And yes, we know that's tough, right? And that's because it's hard to read the label when you're inside the jar. Okay. Unfortunately, we can't tell you what makes you different in this presentation, right? That takes rolling up our sleeves and really getting to know you. But here's one thing we can tell you, that if your purpose isn't turning into profit, you'll know your presence needs perfecting. I think I'm going to repeat that.
I would.
If your purpose isn't turning into profit, you'll know your presence needs perfecting. So that's question number 1 in the litmus test. Is your brand super defined?
And here's the thing. If you know that all the answers to those 5 critical questions and they're answered with great clarity, then put a big check mark on that. And then you move to question number 2. If you can't say that with certainty, then you got to work on question number 1 a little bit.
Stop right there and start over, right? Okay. Number 2, is my brand developed to showcase the answers to those 5 questions right now? Okay. Does your brand messaging reflect the answers? How about the imagery for your brand? Because it's not enough to know the answers. You have to show it in your brand, right? It's not enough to know, you have to show.
Mm-hmm. So ask yourself this. Does my brand messaging, my story, clearly answer those questions? Is my image aligned with that message? In other words, does all of the imagery that I put out there support what I want to be known for, right? And is it immediately apparent what I want to be known for whenever someone is exposed to my brand? We know that a picture's worth 1,000 words. You've heard it a million times, right? But it has to be the right words and the right image. And if your brand isn't properly developed to showcase your story and the image that you want to portray, then you definitely have some work you need to do.
Yep. Okay. Moving on to litmus test. Question number 3, is your brand displayed correctly and consistently everywhere? Because if there's no consistency, there's no recall, right? So a few questions you should ask yourself here.
Do all of my social channels reflect my brand? How about my videos? Do they reflect my brand? What about my email campaigns? Does my website accurately reflect my brand? What about my books, my ebooks, my coaching programs, my courses? How about speaker materials? How about the coup de grace? How about your podcast profile.
Yep. Here's a little sidebar. We work with a lot of coaches and experts who are on all of those platforms. In fact, we're on all of those platforms.
Mhm.
And we also work alongside some incredible industry leaders in the podcasting world. And all of them have told us that they wish all of their clients would build their brand before they use their platform. Okay. So one of those is Alex Sanfilippo. He is the founder of Podmatch. He built an incredible platform
Mhm.
that matches ideal podcast hosts and guests. And then another good friend is Josh Tapp. He owns Pantheon, and that's where they help you produce your podcast, grow your podcast, and monetize it too. Those guys tell us all the time, gosh, I wish everybody would come to you guys before they put their profile up, because, that's just something we found. It is an issue.
Yeah. What we found along this journey is that there's so many people who are just not prepared to start marketing themselves on those platforms because their brand isn't dialed in yet. And that reflects in their profiles a lot of times. They don't stand out. Unfortunately, here's what happened. People tend to blame the marketing platforms as saying that they don't work instead of really focusing on the brand that's not working.
Yeah, exactly. And that actually happens across every industry with every marketing platform. Back when I was in the media world, for instance, first starting in radio, I would go to prospects and they would tell me, oh, radio doesn't work. I tried it. And I said to them, yes, it does. Marconi tested radio years ago. It works just fine. The problem is how you're using the platform. And that is a common thing. A lot of people blame marketing platforms. They tend to blame coaches too. They blame a lot of people when the brand isn't working really well for them.
All right. It's time for the final and the ultimate litmus test question. And it's actually a two-part question for your brand. Here it is. There's no big mystery in this question. Is my brand making me money? Is it making you any money? Right? Am I able to charge what I'm worth? And it's straightforward as it comes. And if you are among the 90% of coaches, creators, and experts who don't feel like you're charging what you're really worth or not able to charge at all, then you need to know that it all begins with your brand. And that's where you set yourself apart from everybody else in your space.
Yeah. And most of you who are tuning in right now are competing with people all over the world. Think about that for a minute. It wasn't more than like a decade or so ago that we were mostly just competing with people in our general area, in our geographical area. But now, thanks to the internet, we're competing with people all over the world, right? And a lot of people who provide the same type of service that you provide. And remember, 98% of your prospects will meet your brand before they meet you. So if you're not positioned as an expert or a thought leader in your space, then you're no doubt not charging what you're worth. And that alone is worth investigating.
Absolutely. All right, let's recap the litmus test. Those 4 questions again are: number 1, is my brand super defined? Does it answer all 5 critical questions? Most importantly, what makes me different? All right. Number 2, is my brand developed to showcase those things right now in both my brand messaging and my brand imagery? And is it immediately apparent what makes me different from everybody else in my space? Number 3, is my brand displayed correctly and consistently everywhere, not just some places, everywhere? And number 4, is my brand making me money? Am I able to charge what I'm really worth?
Yeah, exactly. So if you answered no to any of these questions we posed to you just now, well, you need to know the problem is not your marketing. The problem is your brand. Yep, that's the bad news. The problem is your brand. Okay. But here's the great news. There's actually a simple, easy fix, and you deserve to know whether your brand is helping you or hurting you. In fact, you deserve to have your brand represent you the way that you know you want to be represented in this world.
Absolutely. So our free gift to you is a guide we call the Ultimate Guide to a Profitable Personal Brand. And it covers a lot more than we could tap into here today. So just head to brandfaceguide.com, or you can snap the QR code on your screen.
Yeah. And one more thing before we go back to Katie here. The greatest thing that we've witnessed along this journey is that a great brand doesn't just change the way others see you. It changes the way you see yourself. I know it did that for me, and we consistently hear that from every client that we talk to. That's where the real magic begins.
Yeah. We hope you guys have a good understanding of what it means to actually build your personal brand before you promote it on any of your social media or anywhere else, because it truly does change how you've seen, so you can charge what you're worth.
All right. Back to you, Katie.
That was awesome. And I think that Tonya and Michael, I loved how you gave us those clear action steps that we can do. And I think that you can't just do it while, watching this video. This isn't that you have to go back, sit down, take the time and block out an hour in the morning and really work on clarifying what it is that makes you and your brand different. Because this is something that I commonly see. So I work with a lot of coaches and consultants, a lot of realtors especially. Michael, I'm sure you were an auctioneer, but at the same time, anyone could sell a house here in Denver, really, right? I mean, like, what is it that makes you stand out from all the other realtors out there? I mean, it's not just like going out and buying a bus bench anymore. I mean,
Nuh-uh.
there's so many ways to find other people to help you in your industry. So this is one of the things that I know I struggled with when I was first creating my brand and the Next Step social communications brand, because I'm a social media agency. There's so many people that can help you with social media. And I remember I was working with a coach, and we've been working together for a while, but I grew up alongside the internet. I'm not used to navigating what I'm eating and where I'm going and what I'm doing every single day. It can be and so I'm a little camera shy. I think that a lot of people might also be in that camp. And I didn't really know what it was that made me special, what made me different. How, if someone is also kind of like, oh, I don't know, like, I've been doing this for a while. I mean, I teach similar methods, but how do I stand out from a sea of competition? Like you said, we're not just competing with people locally anymore. We're competing with people all over the world. So
Yeah.
if someone's sitting here at the end of the session, like, okay, well, I can do all of these things, but I still don't know what it is that makes me different. What are some tips or pieces of advice that you would want to give him or her?
Well, the things that make you different are really different for everybody, right? And I know that sounds common sense, but when I say that, some people focus on what makes them different as their story makes them different, how they got to where they are makes them different. Someone else may focus on the fact of an event that happened to them that caused them to create a solution that then sets them apart. Someone else may look at it and say, okay, this is how I help people, and the manner or method in which I help people is different from everybody else. So you kind of see where the train's going here. It's different for everybody. So some of those things you'd ask yourself would be, first of all, start with your story. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you doing what you're doing? Because that's going to give you more evidence than anything else to tell why you're different. Why are you doing it?
Yeah, I can use an example in my own life. Being in real estate all my life, having a brokerage, right, in a town in an area north of Atlanta, I've got the experience of over 78,000 real estate transactions, right, at more than any one broker in history. But I was just in the right time at the right place. I'm good at what I do, but I also had the benefit of that. So a lot of times people will be like, well, I haven't sold 78,000. What makes me different, right? The fact that I've sold that many doesn't mean anything to anybody. I have to portray to them in my brand why it's important to that one person whose only home is their home. They only care about that home. They don't care about the other 78,000, right? So we use that as a platform, and you can do that. Everybody has a unique, selling point. A lot of people use those words. They do, because we're all uniquely different. So this is, like you said, when you started this, taking time, probably in the morning when you're the freshest, sitting down and asking yourself those questions. Why do I do what I do? Do I have experience that led me to that? And then start going on that vein, and you're going to find what it is that is your differentiator.
I totally agree. And I think that for me, I was embarrassed to tell people I'd been doing social media as long as I had. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I started with bands, with helping bands in their MySpace pages. And I was like, oh gosh, I don't want people to think like I'm really old. Like I was like, I don't know if I want people to know that's when I got started. I mean, like it was something that I did because I had, I worked at the radio station, and if I worked with these bands and their MySpace pages, I was able to get their music sent to the station. I was able to build relationships with them. So I was like, it wasn't really like a job. I was getting stuff out of it. They were giving me things for it, but I was like, I don't know. But once I started sharing that story, people were like, oh, MySpace. Yeah. I remember Tom. He was my first, social media friend too. Your story is going to help your people connect with you. That's what's going to make people say, I want to work with them. I love that she's been doing it for a while. I love my daughter plays softball. I heard you mention on a podcast that you played
Yes.
softball in college, Katie. And for me, it was just my story. It's nothing special. But for other people, that is how we find connection. That's how we find our community. That's how we find our, I was going to say like our community, but I've said it a couple of times. I can't think of a better word, but that's what makes you want to connect with them.
It is. And I want to correct you just a little bit. You said it's not that special. It just doesn't seem that special to you because it's you. It's your life.
Yeah.
You lived it. It's special to thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, and eventually millions, because we all, if you really think about human beings, there's not that many differentiators to all of us. We have same emotions, we have same fears, we have same, no matter what level of success we've had or level of success that we're trying to get to. And there's been other people that have navigated that, and you and your space with your story have navigated that better than anybody. And you have that to show to every one of your clients. And what you do in your brand is you portray that to them in a way, because we know in the years of internet that was here, it is here now. Thank you, COVID. It blew up in our face, right? It's that people are looking you up. They're going to your social medias. They're going to your websites. They're finding the trails that you have left behind. It is impossible for us not to, your footprint. And then they're, you know what? I like that Katie. You know what? I like her message. You know what? I had MySpace. I love music too. I like exactly like you said. And all of a sudden they feel really comfortable with you and they want to do business with you.
What's interesting, Katie, is whenever we speak, a lot of times at the end of the speech, I'll say, okay, well, you guys tell me, what are you going to remember most about me from this time I've spent on the stage with you? And a lot of them will say, oh, you're from a town that was your family made moonshine, right? And then other people will say you sold vacuum cleaners door to door. Okay. Those are the two things they remember. Those are both personal things. They're nothing to do with what I was teaching on that stage, nothing. And that's where we begin to connect, is on the personal side. And that's why we say people don't do business with a logo. They do business with a person.
Yes. Preach. No. And I love, it's one of those things where I know I made the mistake when I started my business of, and it's not to say that branding isn't important. It's extremely important. But people want to do business with people. There's a reason why Progressive plays, I don't even know her real name, the actress that plays Flo, hundreds of thousands of dollars, I assume, maybe millions. But I think of Progressive, I think of Flo. I think I see Flo, I think Progressive, I think auto insurance. That's the person that they've given as the face of their brand. And again, like even Nike, they pay athletes hundreds of thousands of dollars to be the face of their brand, to have that story be there, they're in alignment with. But yeah, so I just want to say that I 1000% agree with that.
And I want to say this, Kate, I want to add this to the listeners because, we're caught up in a world. We've been caught up. I think progressive people like yourself are moving, helping to move that needle. We've been caught up in our past experience of seeing people like Gary Vaynerchuk and these big leaders, Seth Godin, a lot of guys that are just like, boom, they were in the right place, right time. They were very smart human beings. They saw this power. Next thing you know, they've got all these followers. They worked on platforms that allowed those kind of followers at the time. And all of those things have changed now. Like every platform period is trying to bring us into community more than this world wide web, and trying to shrink us. I don't think wrongly. I think they're trying to do that because our connectors are people in our communities. And so, like, we've all that have been in this space for a while realize now that we need to be talking to the one person that needs to hear it. And so, but a lot of people wait about building a brand because they're like, oh, I'm embarrassed.
I only have 200 followers.
I've only
right?
got, I've only got 10 people that ever downloaded my podcast ever. I've been doing it a year and a half or something. And they think that this is a problem. It's not a problem, folks. Don't let that be something that holds you back. The best, Tonya says, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the second best time to plant it is today.
My dad says the same thing about real estate. The best time to buy a house is 20 years ago. The next best time is today. But same thing. Yeah. Yes,
exactly.
One person, if you can find one person that needs what you've got to say, you are successful. And then you'll find two, and then you'll find 200, and you'll find 2,000. So don't look at it so huge. Start where you are.
Yeah, I absolutely love that, Michael. And I think that it can be hard to step in front of the camera, to put your face out there. What are people going to think? For someone who's trying to make that shift, maybe they've just been using the logo. Maybe they have a successful business. Things are good, but they've never really done anything on the digital marketing side. Everything's always been referral based, or they've, been doing like paid search ads or anything like that. And they want to start incorporating email, live video, social media into their strategy this year. And we're sitting here saying, well, you got to show your face. What tips would you give them as they move away from the logo and into the personal side of their business?
Okay, I love that question, because I would tell them, go with what you know. Okay. So a lot of times, when we first started Brand Face, I would work a little bit with some of our clients on those types of videos. And they were so nervous until I asked them about their expertise. And if I asked them about something they knew a lot about, their eyes lit up. It's kind of like looking through somebody's portfolio after they have a photo shoot done. And I can look at it and say, they hated that outfit, but they loved this one, right? Something just illuminates about that person. So when you start video, start with what you know, because your comfort level is going to be so amazing and you're just going to rattle it off. Another thing I would recommend is do it sort of interview style. Have somebody ask you a question and then you just answer the question. Because if you do it like side by side, like we are on Zoom right now, it gives you the comfort that there's somebody there who knows you, who's got your back. They're going to ask you the question, you're going to answer it. And it's just like having a conversation. And the beautiful part about that is you can take just your part of that and put it into a video. So there's a couple of tips.
And I love that, because that's one of the first things I do when I onboard a new client for social media. So we'll sit down and we have an hour onboarding call, kind of showing them like the back end, like this is your Google Drive, this is the schedule. I mean, like all the things. But then 30 minutes, I record it and it's basically a podcast. I'm asking them their story. Why did they decide to start this business? What is it that, they're passionate about? Do they have kids? All of those things, because as we start building out their social media strategy, people want to hear your story. I mean, stock images and, pretty graphics are only going to get you so far. And
exactly.
People want to do business with people. Okay. One final question for both of you, or for whoever wants to take the lead. The zone of genius, you guys talked on that a lot. And I think it comes back to, what is your story when you're trying to step into your zone of genius? Your story has a huge part in that. What tips would you give somebody as they decide to step into their zone of genius, and really how it is that they stand apart from the competition?
First of all, put your blinders on. Okay, don't pay attention to the competition. One of the greatest compliments we ever got was from Leslie, is her name, and she's a client down in New Orleans. And she said, now I don't have to compete with anybody else. That was after she built her brand. And it's like, now Here's what I'm known for. Here's what I stand for. Here's how I help people and what value I bring. And once she did that, she realized she no longer had any competitors. So I think that's the best thing somebody can do in the frame of mind, to step into their own zone of genius and say, nobody else matters right now. What do I offer?
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't. I think the comparison thing is a death trap. Like
It is.
you should never do that ever, because you're just living somebody else's life if you're doing that. Your life
Michael,
is the one that matters.
It's so hard in the world of social media
It
too,
is.
because you're seeing people say, "Oh, I launched this product and made $400,000 in a week," and it's like, well, yeah, but you spent $800,000 on ads, or you had 18 failed launches before that. It's so hard to just see sunshine and rainbows that other people might be putting out there, but you don't see what's on the other side. And it's
No, you
when
don't.
I stepped into my personal brand and to my zone of genius, as you guys put it, I had to hide a lot of people that I had followed on Instagram for a long time. I didn't unfollow them. I just stopped showing them in my feed, because I was like, oh my gosh, now they're doing a course. Oh no, now they're doing this. And look how much, and it was just derailing me like crazy.
Yep.
Yeah.
It will. Actually, when
natural.
that dawned on me, like I was always a Hootie and the Blowfish and Darius Rucker fan. Like, I just love the guy. I think he's just awesome. And I've seen him like a dozen times, and I've seen him play in front of 50, 60,000 people. And I went to this concert one time in Ballantyne in Charlotte, North Carolina, and it was only like 1,500 people showed up at this thing. He sang the same concert. He did the exact same thing I've seen him do in front of 50, 60,000 people. Right. And it dawned on me then, I'm like, you know what, a true professional, they do it because they do it. It doesn't matter. It didn't matter to him that it was 1,500 people, and he would already achieve massive success. So I think that you have to do it because of your why. And then you just stick to that why and build your brand on that why. People are going to follow you. They're going to appreciate what you're doing, and get that competitive edge off of your mind so you can focus on what you're doing.
I absolutely love that. Tonya, any final thoughts here? It looks like you're about to say something off of Michael's tailcoats. Okay.
No, that's okay. I'd really like to end with this. A long time ago, someone said to me, "Hey, can you make me a star?" And I said, "We don't make stars, we unveil them." And I think this is a great finish to this conversation, because that's what you just talked about, right? We all have a star inside of us, and it's up to you to find it and put it out there, and don't worry about anybody else. Really focus on the star inside of you, because you all have it.
Love that. And if you guys missed the QR code during their presentation, it's the #1 guide to building a profitable personal brand. The link's right here on this page. Be sure to click the link and get that guide, because it is going to be super beneficial for you. And if you have not signed up to be a part of our VIP, the Social Toolkit, you get access to this recording, all the recordings, so you can watch them again. And I'm sure that you are going to want to watch, if not just this one again, but many of them. There are so many great sessions throughout this 4-day event, over 40 speakers telling us different ways that we can level up our business, become the leaders that we're meant to be, build our audience, create the content, do the sales, all the things. You're going to want to make sure that you have access to those recordings, and you can get it by signing up for the VIP, which you can do by clicking the link on this page. Do it now. Michael, Tonya, Brandface, thank you so much for being a part of Social Profit Lab. This is a great session, and I'm so glad that you guys are here.
Thank you, Katie.
Thanks, Katie.